was lying.
What's up everybody, it's KB the Dragon, and today let's take a look at one of my favorite Shadebinder builds. I've been sitting on this build for a few months, so let's just dive right into it. And if you like the build, please subscribe for more Destiny content. Now let's get started with the subclass setup. Starting off with the aspects, the first aspect will be the Bleak Watcher, or the Ice Turret, which allows you to convert a grenade into a stasis turret that fires slow and projectiles at nearby targets. The Bleak Watcher helps by creating a distraction for the enemy and by splitting their focus, so while the turret slows them down, you and your team can get those easy cleanups. You can also throw it into the rooms to see their position, since the turret will shoot nearby enemies when it spawns. To combo with Bleak Watcher, we have the Fragments Whisper Refraction, Durance, and Torment. Whisper gives you more class ability energy for defeating slow or frozen targets, giving you access to your rift more often, and the turret will supply those targets for you. Durance, on the other hand, buffs your turret in two ways. It jumps the slow time for targets hit from 2 seconds to 4 seconds, making them easier targets for longer, allowing them to be hit multiple times to become frozen. And being slowed is one thing, but if you get hit too much and become frozen, that's basically a death sentence. Durance also extends the duration of the turret for 5 seconds, leaving it active for a full 30 seconds in total. This makes the heavy investment of using your grenade just a little bit more bearable. And Torment helps by giving you grenade energy as you take damage, adding even more consistency to using it. Our next aspect will be the Frost Pulse, which allows you to freeze nearby enemies with a shockwave when casting your rift. This gives the build a close range option for stopping aggro players in their tracks with the right timing. They don't stay frozen for long, so make sure to clean up the kill with a body shot and a melee. If you do it fast enough while they are frozen, it will trigger refraction feeding your next rift. Freezing them so close to you will also activate the last fragment of the build, the Whisper of Chains, which gives you some damage resistance while near frozen targets, giving you even more of an open window to deal with the target that you just froze with your rift, since you will be able to take more damage from other targets while you deal with the frozen one. And speaking of rifts, we'll be using the Empowering one, but more on that as we go over the exotics of the build. As for your grenade of choice, we'll be going with Glacier, since the 30th anniversary patch, if you equip Bleak Watcher aspect, the cooldown will be equal to your Glacier grenade cooldown. Luckily, the Glaciers have the most overall utility out of the grenades that we have. They can create cover, lock down revives and trials or other revive based modes, and can even create footing on walls to use for some crazy angles. On top of that, thanks to the Whisper of Chains, they add damage resistance on demand, which pairs nicely with our exotic armor. Now, let's move on to the bread and butter of the build, the exotics. For armor, we'll be using the current favorite, the Stag. The Stag comes with the exotic perk, Dearly Departed, and this perk has 3 effects. First, you get rift energy when you are critically wounded. Each time that your shields are broken, you gain roughly 30% of your rift energy. But on the off chance that you die, the Stag also drops a healing rift for your remaining allies to use, which could be enough to help your team turn the fight in their favor, especially if a turret is there slowing everybody around it. On top of that, you and any ally standing in the rift gain damage resistance, about 15% to be exact. You can combo this further with Whisper of Chains that grants you even more damage resistance. And if you happen to be standing next to a frozen target, or using a Glacier Grenade while standing in the rift, you will gain a 35% DR, which makes you insanely hard to take down. Just take a look at the difference that the Stag makes. Not only does it make the opponent take more shots, this just turns into more grenade energy for yourself, thanks to the Whisper of Torment. Now for our exotic weapon, Le Monarch. And I don't think it needs any introduction, but if you're not in the know, Le Monarch is a void energy bow that has the ability Poison Arrows. When you fire an arrow right after it's fully drawn, it deals poison damage for 8, 6, or 3 damage, or 24 damage altogether. And to top it off, if it's a headshot, you spread that poison damage to nearby targets, which means that the enemy team can't huddle up too close to each other or they'll risk even more damage. Now this is where our Rift of Choice comes into play. With an Empowering Rift, you gain the ability to essentially one-tap any guardian outside of their super. You take the arrow damage from about 152 to a deadly 182 when paired with the poison damage, which makes for about 206, which is more than enough to take down guardians. So now we have the Empowering Rift to help ensure one taps with a Monarch, and the Stag to help increase our Rift uptime. The Stag also gives us damage resistance we need to ensure that we can line up our shots, since you need a headshot to ensure this one tap. Now let's take it a step further with our mods to make these one taps even more consistent. The base of our mods will be the High Energy Fire mod, which gives us a nice damage boost of about 20% while we are charged with light. And kills using this buff consumes a stack of the charge, which brings us to our other 2 mods to charge us with the light. First we have the Void mod Charge Harvester. Charge Harvester allows any kill or assist to give you a small chance to become charged with light as long as you weren't charged with light before the kill. There isn't any set amount of kills, but the free charges always help. Each kill brings a greater chance to become charged, but death resets that counter. The next mod is Taking Charge, which charges you with light when you pick up an orb of power. And to wrap this up, we have Stacks on Stacks, which is a void mod that allows you to gain a second charge stack when you gain one, giving you 2 for the price of 1. And now that you have the stacks, you can one-tap with a Monarch without the need of a rift at all, making your playstyle potentially more explosive and aggressive. For the rest of the mods, we'll be focusing on making your rift even more consistent. Double utility kickstarting your class item helps your cooldown with your rift faster just for using it, and a grenade kickstart will help the terrible cooldown for your ice turret. Targeted mods for your bow or unflinching will also be extremely helpful for ensuring that you get the headshot. As for the stats, 100 recovery is a must to keep your rifts ready as much as possible. With 100 recovery and the Stag's Dearly Departed perk and the Whisper of Refraction all helping with cooldowns, your power rift will always be there when you need it. It's the foundation for your build until you become charged with light. Next up is your discipline. 70 and above will do you just fine. Whisper of Torment will help cool down the nade on top of your grenade kickstart. Replace your grenades, multiple functions make it secondary only to the rift. As for strength, go for 50 minimum and the rest is up to your personal preference. I'm just providing the base for you. But overall, Wendigo is a fun build to use. Rift placement is absolutely key, since a well-placed rift can turn your rift into a consistent one-tap with Le Monarch. And depending on your other weapons, you can add extra utility. You can go with a double primary to avoid feeding the other team's special ammo when you die. You can also use a linear fusion rifle as your heavy, since a linear charge with light or an empowering rift are one-taps as well, but those are to the body. To top it off, since the 30th anniversary patch, dealing and receiving damage helps to cool down your super, making this build even better. The damage resistance in your rift allows you to tank more damage, turning it into not only grenade energy with torment, but super energy, making you even more of a threat in the match. Try out the build for yourself and let me know in the comments if you liked it, or any changes that you would recommend. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.